Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery here. It's a beautiful Friday morning. Today is October 4th, 2024. We get together with our distribution partners most weekday mornings at this time to talk about strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories. And I think that's really the best description. Today, we're going to share some best practices. Several of you have really been knocking it out of the ballpark in helping clients create a fundable business through shelf corporations. But I realize that some of you are not following the same approach, the same process, the same model as others. So I'm going to show you what I believe to be the best practices of our top producers. So today's topic, how to effectively sell a shelf corporation. I'm not going to spend a lot of time revisiting the benefits of the shelf corporation. We've covered that the last 4 consecutive days. So if you need more of program information, that's not what we're doing today. Today, we're going to talk about the process of how to close more deals. So we help more people, you make more money. Now, remember, we have a 3-step process, and this has not changed. We first need to qualify our prospect, and we literally want to ask them this question: are you looking for funding to start or grow a business? Now, I think it was Bill. Bill puts a twist on this. Bill goes around and he'll ask, hey, do you know anyone that's looking for funding to start or grow a business? Bill will be in line at the Piggly Wiggly buying bread and milk, and he'll ask the people in front of him and behind him, hey, do you know anyone that's looking for funding to start or grow a business? So you can see it's the same question. It's just, are you directing it to the individual, or are you taking a bit more of a passive approach, seeing if they could refer you anyone? But so often they will say, oh yeah, me. So you could pivot that the Bill way or the direct way, but we need to pre-qualify first. If you were to ask it Bill's way, again, the real intention is for them to say, oh yeah, me. But it's less direct. We need to calculate their fundability score. We've gone through that. We've trained you how to do that. If you don't know how to do that, you need to get with us so we can close that gap. But it's crucial that you not just have some conversation with someone, but you specifically assess their fundability score and quantify it. I was talking to Daryl this morning. He's got 2 deals that are closing, I think he said today, but 2 deals. And I kind of held him to the fire. Hey, Daryl, what were their fundability scores? And he stuttered a little bit. So I want to make sure that if you know the best practices, you can make a conscious decision to either do what works, or you frankly, you can do it your way. But if you do it this way, it works. So we pre-qualify them, we determine their fundability score, and then essentially, if they have a 6 out of 6, which is the highest score they can have, of course, then they don't need help. We just need to go get them funding, which we can do. That's rarely the case. About 1 out of 200 surveys or assessments we do has a perfect score. Therefore, they have a problem. They want money. They've told us that. They're not fundable. We've determined that. So now we're going to help them solve their problem, and we can do that through the build or buy. Build is our 4-week funding program to build a fundable business. The buy is to get a shelf corporation, which is our discussion today. So this hasn't changed. Just wanted to make sure. And then also so you knew the bill variance, where it's asking, hey, do you know anyone that's looking for funding to start or grow a business? Make sense so far? If you have any questions, comments, concerns, type it in the Q&A. Otherwise, let's roll forward. All right, we're going to talk about the pricing because I think some of you are pricing it incorrectly. So I'm going to show you how to price it correctly so you close a lot more deals. Here we go. So you know from our other discussions, or you should know from our other discussions, that the wholesale price is $10,000. That's a fact. Whatever you want to charge above $10,000 is your profit. That's a fact. Most of you are pricing it at $15,000, which gives you $5,000 profit. That's a fact. But when you're discussing pricing, don't sell it at $15,000. That's a horrible decision. You might say, well, that doesn't make sense. In the psychology of our society, People often weigh a purchasing decision on the upfront cost, not the total cost. Upfront cost, not the total cost. So we need to leverage that to our benefit. So we're not going to lie, cheat, or steal, but we're going to leverage that human psychological tendency to make purchasing decisions based upon upfront cost. Do they need to pay $15,000 upfront? Absolutely not. So let's continue on. So obviously pricing is going to have to be addressed. We don't sell it at $15,000. We want to let them know right away, hey, by the way, there is a purchase price for a Shelf Corporation, of course. However, we have a grant that will reimburse you for that after funding. So we're kind of softening them up a little bit before we hit them with numbers. So we don't blurt out 15,000. No one wants to pay 15,000. Is it a good deal at 15,000? Of course, but no one wants to pay 15,000. So we don't shoot the 15,000 out. We soften them up by letting them know factually that, hey, by the way, there is a purchase price for the Shelf Corporation, as you would expect. You wouldn't expect good things to be free, but we have a grant that will reimburse you. Continue on. The out-of-pocket is only $1,000 to get a Shelf Corporation. So you see, if we lead with 1,000, does that not sound a whole lot better than leading with 15,000? And that's a true statement. And we'll continue on and elaborate and expand on that. So we do, if you're spitting out of your mouth 15,000, shame on you. You should stop closing deals and send them to Bill or AJ or one of our others that can close for you. Don't lead with 15,000. Lead with the 1,000 out of pocket. Now, the balance can be financed, and that's so what we're saying is true, of course. So 1,000 out of pocket, the balance, which of course is 15,000 minus 1,000, that's 14,000. The balance can be financed. We have around 40 different lenders that will participate in giving the client funding offers. There's no hard inquiries to get those offers. Now, what's happened, I think it was Dr. Smith again I talked to yesterday. She's out of Vegas, so she's normally not on our early calls because she's practicing during the day, and getting up this early is not good for her. But she and I were talking about this, that so often clients, if you follow this process, they're going to ask, well, what does that financing look like? Well, the truth is we don't know exactly, because we're not a bank. You and I are not banks. You and I are not lenders, but we work with lenders and banks and alternative lenders and credit unions. So we can facilitate that, but we're not the lender, of course. But what she and I agreed on is people want an example. So we can't promise that they'll get the same example as the example, but we want to give them a real example. So you could say, well, for instance, one of our lenders will finance the Shelf Corporation. You'll pay the 1,000 down. You'll pay $280.22 a month. It's spread over 5 years. Of course, you could pay it early, and the interest rate's not great, but it's not horrible. So this is how we need to approach pricing, not spitting out 15,000. So let's pause there. Who has questions, comments, concerns on that? All right, well, Harold says, well, how does this doesn't seem to add up, right? So if they're going to get a refund, how does this financing work? Well, it's two separate mechanisms, right? So if they're going to buy a Shelf Corporation from you, they're going to sign a contract to buy it at 15,000. That's a fact. They only need to pay 1,000 out of pocket. That's a fact. We'll facilitate financing for the rest. That's fine. Separate from that, if they pay 15,000, then that's what they're going to be refunded back. So follow the timeline. So today they pay you $1,000. Today we get their financing set up. Let's say the financing pays out next week. So then they get the money, they get the 14,000 that they would need to borrow for the balance. That goes to the client. Then the client's going to pay you the rest of what they owe you, right? Because they're buying it for 15,000, 1,000 out of pocket, 14,000 financed. Then we'll be able to go get them funding And the promise is, the deal is, hey, we'll refund back your 15,000, which we'll do through the grant. We'll do, not a problem. Does that just suddenly make the financing go away? No, because the financing is a third-party lender, so they could go ahead and pay off that loan if they want, or they could keep paying the payments on the loan, but they will have received their 15,000 back. Does that make sense, Harold? Okay. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, type it in the Q&A. It's so important that you understand not just the value proposition of this, which is incredible, but how to properly present it. Because again, I see some of you, like Pearly, closing a deal a day, and then others, you seem to be sputtering. So we need to make sure that you understand, don't go pitch 15,000, pitch out of pocket. The rest can be financed. Now, I wouldn't automatically go into these bullets unless they ask. And then if they ask, then this will give you accurate, real ammunition. All right, so let's continue on. So the enrollment process, just to clarify, you need to get the client under contract. Why is that? You are what we call a reseller or a white label partner. So when you signed up, which didn't cost anything to be a white label partner, we sent you an editable client contract for a Shelf Corporation. You should have that. If you don't have it, let us know. We'll make sure to get it to you promptly. So we told you, take that contract template, edit it. In other words, remove our information, put your information on it, and then you can change the pricing as you want, because you control that. You know, we need 10,000 to cover our hard costs of providing the Shelf Corporation. Anything that you want to charge above that is your profit. So step one, you need to get the client under contract. So again, you need to have edited the template, probably got it into Adobe or DocuSign, and had the client e-sign it. If you don't have, and I hate to say this, but I guess I just got to say, if you don't have the capability to edit a Word document, you need to get someone to help you, right? Because you're the CEO of your business. If you don't have that basic technical skill, then you got to find someone to help you edit a Word document, which is very basic. Get it into Adobe or DocuSign, and then you're ready to go. Okay, so we need to get the client under contract. Step two, you're to collect that $1,000 deposit from them. And I'll get questions from some of you like, well, how do I collect that? And I'm like, well, you are a business owner, right? You invoice them. I mean, how do normal businesses operate, right? This is no different. You would normally invoice them using QuickBooks or whatever you want to use. Maybe it can be more informal, and then they pay you, right? It's not very difficult. It's business 101. They have a contract with you. We're promising to deliver this, which we will 100% of the time. They're promising to pay you this, but only this amount up front, and then the rest through the financing. So you need to collect that. So if you want to collect Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Bitcoin, PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, Apple Pay, I don't care. It's up to you. You're the CEO of your white label partnership. However you want to collect money. With chickens, I don't care. However you want to get paid. Chicken thing was a joke, by the way. All right, so then what happens? You keep half of that deposit, which is how much? 500. You send us the other half, which is how much? 500. And then you're also going to provide us the contract. So we need to provide every one of you a Dropbox folder. That's part of what you get as a white label partner. If you don't have one yet, it's probably because you've never done a deal, so you didn't need it, but we'll get you a Dropbox folder. It didn't cost anything. That's just an online file management system. So it's free to you, and it allows us to share documents without emailing back and forth. And this is what we use for client files as well. But separate from that, get the client under contract, you collect the deposit, you keep half, send us our half, and upload the agreement into Dropbox, and then we're going to work with them through our lender partners to get them financed. So then they'll get the money. They'll get, well, here's our contact information. They'll get the money, and then you'll invoice them a second time, and then they'll pay you the rest of what they owe you, which would be 15,000 minus 1,000 be 14,000. Now, you're paid multiple times. I guess we've already identified you're paid 3 times for every client. You're paid upfront when they pay you the deposit. You're paid a second time after they get the financing for the balance of the Shelf Corporation. And then we're going to take them to funding, and then you'll be paid a success fee or performance fee after funding. But that's not really what we're talking about right now. What we're talking about right now is how to effectively sell a corporation. So who has questions? I needed to make sure, because I don't think all of you were doing it this way. Sanya, you were emailing some questions or texting questions yesterday, the day before. Sanya, is this your approach? How many of you are doing it this way currently? If you could just type yes or no into the Q&A. How many of you are approaching it this way? So you don't lead with the full price, you lead with the out-of-pocket. Yeah, AJ's doing it, and it should work really well. So this isn't necessarily new information, just wanting to clarify. And then again, Dr. Smith and a couple of you said, hey, what's this financing going to look like? Well, the answer is, I don't know, right? We're going to, once you have got the $1,000 deposit forwarded our half, then we're going to get an app, a simple 1-page app over to the client. That's all part of number 4 here. They'll fill that out. We'll get them offers. Now, Gilbert's got a really good question. What happens if they want more than just the 15,000 or 14,000, since they've already paid 1,000 down? That's fine. We'll get them offers for as much as they qualify for at that point. So they might have offers for 30,000, 40,000, 50,000. You know, they can pick those offers. So this would be the opportunity for them to get what we call seed capital or first tranche financing, because we already have the app, we already have the lenders, we're already doing the processing. So this is a great way for them to not only get enough money to cover the cost of the Shelf Corporation, but also to put some money in their pocket. Now, that should not be confused with the business funding, which we need to get all of this in their name. We need a week, 8 days is what we say, to go to business funding with the Shelf Corporation. Well, we're on day 0 here. So when we talk about financing here, we're talking about what we'll call baseline financing, what they qualify for when they first come to the table. This is not the funding process with a fundable business, because right now we're just trying to get them to cover the cost of the Shelf Corporation so we can go for the larger business funding. All right, so then Toby's asking about, can they just pay up front? Well, sure, it's fine. And some people do. They just pay up front. That's fine. If they don't want to pay up front, then they don't have to. We have some people that pay up front, credit card, some wire. We have a fair number of people that will either pull from their retirement, pull from their home equity. There's lots of different ways that people could come up with the money. That's up to them. But the answer is yes, of course. They don't have to finance it. But the most important thing maybe that I'm conveying to you today is, when it comes to pricing of the Shelf Corporation, 2 things. Lead with the out-of-pocket cost, not with the total cost. And then secondly, make sure that they understand that they're going to be refunded that full amount. All right, so Friday, we try to keep it shorter. Who has questions, comments, concerns on what we've discussed? We've covered the 3-step sales process, which hasn't changed at all, but we did add the bill variable that if you wanted to soften it, you could say this. You could say, do you know anyone looking for funding to start or grow a business? So that's how Bill Biggs does it. So you could soften it up so they don't feel like they're being solicited, or you could ask them directly, whichever way you want. We need to calculate their fundability score, 0 to 6. If you need help on that, call us and we can make sure you're familiar with that training. It's not difficult. And then you want to help them solve their problem. They want funding, they need funding, they're not fundable. We can help them with Build, which is our 4-week funding program, or Buy. I think for many, even if they have a business, I was talking to, oh, who was I talking to this morning? My mind's going, but no, an AJ. Oh, it's Greg. I was talking to Greg this morning, and Greg stated the same thing I feel. Even if they already have a business, if it's not fundable, which you already know, adding a Shelf Corporation for the capital raise is fine. That doesn't mean that their other business has to go away. That doesn't mean that the Shelf Corporation can't raise the capital and then transfer money over into their other business. It's just this is the fastest, it's the easiest, and I would say the cheapest approach, because how much cheaper can it be? In the end, they're getting it free. Their out of pocket is only $1,000. Now, sure, that they'll have financing for the rest, but they'll be able to pay that off with the refunded amount if they want, or they just carry the payments on out. Okay, so who else has questions, comments, concerns? And Zahn brings up a good point. So this is a real example. It is a real example. I'm not making it up. So this is right to the penny, to the term, to the interest rate, to the 100th digit. So it's all accurate. But different people will get different offers. They might get an offer that has a lower interest rate. They might get an offer that has a higher interest rate. They might only get a 48-month repayment term instead of a 60-month repayment term. You and I don't control that, right? So we're taking the people, we're running them through the application. We've got about 40 different lenders. Some of those lenders are not concerned about credit. So that's often a question. Well, what's the minimum credit score to get financing? Well, different lenders have different underwriting, and some of them are not focused on credit. So there's no uniform answer. We'll just need to get an app filled out and see what they qualify for. We've had a number of instances where our clients brought in what we call a credit partner or a credit pledge to get the financing. So that's always an option too. If the client themselves aren't so strong, then we can bring in a third party to get the financing approved. All right, so again, it's Friday. We tried to cut it a little bit shorter. We'll be back Monday morning. Hopefully this was helpful. I don't know what else to say. If you don't have your editable agreement, you need to get with us so we can get that to you. Give us a call. We'll get you the editable agreement, here. And then it's your job. Sometimes we have distribution partners and they sign up and then they're almost expecting everything to be done for them. I mean, we're providing a great economic system that's needed, that's valuable, that's different. But your part is to do what? To do number one. You need to get clients under contract. That's why you make a lot of money doing this, and this is your most important job. So if you're not good at that, you need to get good at that. You can get leads lots of different places. There's no shortage of people that are needing funding. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. We'll see you back Monday morning. Let us know if we can help you with anything. Bye-bye.